So I have the daunting task of, one, making international trade interesting in the morning, and two, do so in 5 minutes. As such, I'll try my best to highlight some key points and put them in two general bins, and I'm going to read a script to make sure that I'm on time. So bin one is mostly about tariffs. Tariffs are a tax. The question is, are they a tax on the consumer? This is called tariff pass-through. The answer is, like most economists like to say, it depends. It is possible that a tariff in my country can push down the foreign price. For example, if there's a tariff on a foreign good that's, say, 10%, perhaps the price goes down that they charge me, and my price as a consumer only goes up by, say, 5%. This can happen for various reasons. I'm a large country relative to the exporting country. The industry is not perfectly competitive, or some combination of the two. Evidence is mounting that recent tariffs have had near complete pass-through. So what does that mean? That means if the tariff is 10%, your price as a consumer goes up by 10%. A 2019 MBR study finds that over the course of 2018, the whole tariff fell on U.S. consumers, with a reduction in U.S. real income by $1.4 billion per month by the end of 2018. So it's a tax, and it's a tax that U.S. consumers are paying. You might ask, how exposed am I to this increase in price? Well, as economists like to say, it depends. Suppose I only buy things from Walmart. Then your exposure will be a function of how well Walmart is of shifting their profits around and their costs. Suppose these tariffs are on intermediate goods like steel and aluminum. Then anything that uses steel or aluminum, even if it's not imported, will potentially have higher prices. For example, Firestone Walker beer, particularly those sold in cans, will be more expensive. In the end, given how connected the world economy is through trade and global supply chains, you'll be hard-pressed to find someone that's not affected by tariffs, at least on some level. You may say, well, I live in California, so I'm used to taxes. Is this somehow worse? It depends. Well, actually, no, it doesn't depend. Yes, it's worse. So you may think this is a good way to get tax revenue from nasty foreigners. Tariff revenue for developed countries make up a tiny portion of government revenue. For example, the U.S. has been at approximately less than 2% since the 1950s. So this isn't a way to get money for the government to run. Less so for developing countries where they don't have the infrastructure to collect tax revenue, but for developed countries, it's just not a big part. You may also think that this is a good way to protect domestic jobs, right? We like people to have jobs from foreign competition. Trade in inputs is getting bigger is one point to that, so you may help jobs in one sector, but you're hurting jobs in other sectors. So solar panels tariffs on solar panels affect the solar panel installation industry. Moreover, it's simply inefficient. So that study that I mentioned 20 seconds ago from the MBR say on the conservative end, Trump's 2018 tariffs led to about $200,000 in welfare costs per job saved. So think about, if I just care about saving a job, well, maybe I just give them $100,000 to hang out on the beach, and that would be on net cheaper. Fourth point is, what's a trade war? Are we just chucking merchandise at each other across the border? The answer is, if someone's making your goods relatively more expensive and decreasing your firm's sales, how would you feel? How might you react? Well, you would do the same on their goods, right? So this is what's known as sort of a prisoner's dilemma, where both countries are worse off than if they would cooperate with each other, which is the whole purpose of the WTO, is to try and help countries not do what they unilaterally want to do, is charge tariffs and be worse off. But then you might say, well, maybe you're not a soybean farmer and you don't sell anything to China, so why should you care? Well, maybe you sell goods to farmers and they buy less because they have less money. Maybe you pay taxes to go bail out farmers or any other group that's been hurt. So again, it may seem far away, but given that everything's connected so much, you'll be affected as well. The second bin was currency devaluation, which is something I don't really do a lot with, but it was asked that I talk about. So we do not have a barter system. You don't go to Ireland with a case of wine and expect to trade for some fish and chips and Guinness. When we purchase goods from the EU, we pay for them in euros, and Ireland needs to purchase our goods with US dollars. Thus, there's a market for currency. Here's the rub. Countries don't just buy foreign currency for trading goods, and the value of my currency isn't just determined by trading goods. So it gets complicated. And since I'm running out of time, we should care about currency devaluation, not just even if you're not a globetrotter trying to buy stuff in other countries. And there's a great podcast called Trade Talks with Chad Bown and Samaya Keynes. And if you want to know more about currency devaluation, episode 95 is China a currency manipulator.